Welcome everyone to GeekKlassic, the series of reviews where I look back on older films, and I've been putting this one on hold for a while. It's my review of the Harry Potter films, Before Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald, and this is my first GeekKlassic collab review, and I got a very special guest to open the series with. You know him, you love him. This man has over 60,300 plus subscribers. Please welcome Sean Chandler. How you doing, Sean?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure is absolutely mine, man. I've been wanting to talk about these films for a while, and this is the perfect opportunity. I'm so happy to have a great guest such as you on this review. I personally came into these films without knowing about the books, but I remember vividly, I have clear memory of seeing this spectacular trailer for the first time that just took me to an entirely different world. I still remember not understanding how this could be possible, but it was due to J.K. Rowling's tradition based on so many elements of my culture for this world of Harry Potter that really brought it home for me. How about you?
Yeah, so for me, I kind of missed the books entirely. It wasn't on my radar when they kind of first had their big boom back in the late 90s. And then I didn't see the first film in the theaters. My kind of introduction really to the series was just kind of hearing murmurs. And then I went to go see the second one, Chamber of Secrets, with a girl. And that was and she's like, you don't know who Harry Potter? You got to check out Harry Potter. And so I was like jumping into the deep end into Harry Potter with the second movie. I was like, wow, this is this big, vibrant world. And I don't quite follow what's going on or who's this Voldemort person they keep talking about or why Harry Potter's so special or anything like that. But that was kind of my introduction, just kind of really going into the deep end right from the get-go and just kind of being engulfed in this big, vivid world. And then after I saw that one, then I went, that night went and rented at Blockbuster the first one and watched. I was like, oh, okay, now I understand a little bit more kind of what's going on here. And I'm also someone that I've never read the books, but my wife is just in love with the books, the movies, all of it. And when we first got married, she didn't like any of it. She was kind of has a little bit contrarian nature to her. She's like, I'm not going to read these books. I'm not going to watch these movies. And then as soon as she started, I mean, it was just an avalanche of love, of fandom for the Harry Potter world. So, like, all of the Harry Potter movies, like, if she stays up later than me, I'll probably wake up at, like, 3 in the morning with, like, right in the dead in the center of one of these movies. And so I've probably seen all of them in bits and pieces in different ways, 20 times or something like that. And then, of course, watch through them a number of times, just a normal viewing.
I think, to me, it quite caught me in the middle of that. I was the right age at the right time. And at least the first two movies, I remember that they dubbed it. So to me, since I didn't realize like dubbing was a thing, I just saw these films in my language and I was like, oh, this kid is like me, and they dress like me, and they talk like me. Plus, as I quickly referenced, the cloaks and the uniforms of Hogwarts, J.K. Rowling actually based on the uniforms that university students use in Portugal, which is where she taught English at the time she wrote these books. Also, the train that they catch to Hogwarts, she wrote, I believe it was the first draft of Philosopher's Stone or Sorcerer's Stone in a train while on her way to giving class.
Yeah, that's kind of what I heard is that, like, I mean, she was in coffee shops and, like, she'd have, like, little napkins writing with a pen. I mean, it's one of the great stories of kind of this cultural phenomena that's extraordinarily important to people, to popular culture right now. And in my mind, it's the kind of current rendition of kind of classic mythology brought to life. Back in the 70s, it was Star Wars, where kind of this meta myth was brought. And then late 90s and then the early zeros, J.K. Rowling did that. And she did it as a person that was a teacher. And just wrote this, created this amazing world. I mean, it's one of those great underdog stories that, she was rejected. And then finally it kind of catches on and, well, kind of changed things a little bit.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. This book became famous, and just like its main character who is very famous in this world, let's talk about Harry Potter, played by Daniel Radcliffe. This kid was a complete unknown. This was his first film, and I just think he gives such a genuine, pure, such emotional performance right in his first movie. Really hits it very well. He encompasses everything that, to me, Harry Potter is. And I would say the same about Rupert Grint as Ron Weasley and Emma Watson as Hermione Granger. I just think this trio has such life to it, such unique life. They have such a unique dynamic. It was a joy rewatching this film for this review and seeing them come together and develop together.
I think what's really makes it work is that they work together. And that you buy them as friends. You buy them as a group of people that as soon as they met each other, they were kind of hooked for life. They have that kind of group chemistry. If you take them as individual actors at that age in this first movie, you can find the weak moments. You can find these kind of shots in it where you're like, ooh, okay, all right, you're still learning to act a little bit. But when you take them in the context of this world, the journey that they're on, whereas the casting that they did amazing? Absolutely, because it works. They work together. They fit this world. They fit the characters that they're playing. And of course, as the movies went along, they of course grew as actors, and you understand why this series is famous and they've continued to have careers. But yeah, I think it's that group dynamic really that makes it work.
Their chemistry is just rocking at full cylinder. But they're not the only ones that are very well cast in this film. This film is layered with great casting, such as Maggie Smith as Minerva McGonagall, Tom Felton as freaking Draco Malfoy. You just, as this little kid, is so despicable in this film. He's just so annoying.
Yes, you hate him.
You hate him so much. You just, shut up, I want to punch you, but you're a kid, so I cannot punch you. The cherry on top of the great casting cake, to me at least, is my very favorite character in this series, Severus Snape, played by Alan Rickman.
Absolutely. I mean, he's one of those actors that you can't think of a bad performance. You can't think of a movie that he's in where he's not the standout. I'm not aware of that movie. I've never seen that movie, and I've seen a lot of movies with Alan Rickman, and that's true here. And in fact, like one of the things that I've from people that are kind of Harry Potter purists that love the books, that I've almost heard people criticize his performance because he's so good at it, and he's so likable, and even being the kind of this creepy weird character in the books, he's a little bit more weirder. He's not quite as charismatic, and that's to say that he's just that good. You can't not be like, oh man, this guy's so good at this, and you just watch him and he's captivating, even when he's just giving these looks and turns, and you see him from a distance and teaching and all of it. So good.
What I love is that he plays it with such dark intensity. He's just so menacing, so scary when you watch it in the first film, and looking back at it in retrospective, giving what he becomes and how these movies eventually really turn dark compared to this first one especially. I just think it gives so much to the character on this very first film, from the moment he's introduced to that moment on the Quidditch game where he's trying to cancel, let's say, the spell of Quirrell on Potter.
The movie lays that foundation of the mystery of, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? How does he fall inside of it? Why is he behaving the way he's doing? All that he's doing? And this movie establishes all of the mystery that is Severus Snape right here in the get-go, and you fully see all of it in each scene. The complexity, the two sides to his actions, his behavior, his everything. And I mean, that's equal parts Alan Rickman, as well as just the source material that they're pulling from, of just a very well-crafted, thought-out character that's complex.
On a complete opposite spectrum, though, of this complex character is probably one of the most lovable characters in the history, I would say, in Rubius Hagrid. You just want to hug him all the freaking time. He's that father that Harry never had, but that you want to have after watching this film. Just every scene with him doesn't necessarily make me cry, but at least it brings tears to my eyes. I get really emotional whenever Hagrid is on screen.
Right. Well, and that, like you said, it's that opposite, that he has like kind of this simple worldview. You know, he shows up and he's like, what? Harry Potter? What? Why would you not treat Harry Potter? Like, he doesn't understand people that don't see the world the way that he does, and doesn't have kind of just that bear huggability to him. Like, he doesn't understand that sort of thing because he has that simple worldview that makes him so likable and endearing.
Yeah, that's so true. I love that last scene that he has with Harry at the train station, and when he says goodbye, Harry, but then Harry says that he's not going home really. Hagrid himself is just about to cry in that scene. It's just such a powerful punch to end this movie on. But let's talk about what to me is the biggest, literally, character in this film, Hogwarts itself. I just love love this castle, love this school. I wanted to go to school because Hogwarts was a school. I wanted to be there. I wanted to wear those uniforms. I wanted to learn spells and potions. I wanted to learn frickin' Quidditch.
Well, I mean, I think both Hogwarts is amazing, but just even to the level that the whole movie is kind of designed so well, and you're so interested in this world that we're discovering that, like, as I was rewatching it, I was kind of timing the movie a little bit, like, which I often do when I do kind of these retro reviews to kind of figure out how the movie's structured. And it's 45 minutes before you get to Hogwarts, and you don't really even notice it because you're so interested in, like, who is this Harry Potter, and why is he talking to a snake, and what's this place that he's at that has all these little creatures, and how does this wand thing? And it's 45 minutes before he meets his friends and they get to Hogwarts, and then you get there and it's even more interesting. And like, everywhere you go into a new room and it's like, oh, this staircase with things moving, it's amazing. And, you know, we're just in a room in the cafeteria, and back to the kind of the casting and them filling in these amazing little roles into it, you got John Cleese as just kind of this random ghost that's kind of floating around pulling his head off. Like, that's just kind of like this little fill-in detail. He's not like this major character, but it's like makes the world so vibrant because it's John Cleese in this role. And everywhere you go, there's these little details that are just so much fun to kind of discover. I actually went to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, I don't know, like 5 years back, and they have kind of the Hogwarts, I don't know if you 4D indoor roller coaster where they shoot flames at you. And as you're waiting in line, each room you go into is a different room in Hogwarts. And so you feel like you're in the room full of all the paintings, and they're like, each one of them is on the walls is talking to you, and you go into the next one and it's the Sorting Hat. And it's just like this world where every location is interesting and feels like an actual place that's out there. Obviously, it's not out there, but it's so well designed and crafted and thought through. And, you know, even like you mentioned, you want to play Quidditch, you want to learn about Quidditch because they've developed this whole game and system and how it ties into the school system because it's such a developed world that we get to discover.
Yeah, I think that's one of the brilliant aspects of the film is the intricate, the detailed world building and the characters that inhabit this world. Just everything, just like you said, before we even get to Hogwarts, it's like 45 minutes in this film. Everything is so well laid down for you that you believe in this world. You could live in this world. This world, basically for people in London, is basically just a wall in a train station away.
Right. Well, and that's the fun thing is that they have actual trains. You can stop by a train station out there and actually go to that location. And I know some people have done that. It just feels like this place that, yeah, you can escape to. And, you know, as you said, and that it's this world that feels populated, that's interesting, complex, detailed, filled with nuanced, interesting characters that are different from each other. It's not like a bunch of carbon copies of different types of characters. They're all filling in these different roles, and the characters, as I mentioned kind of earlier, or the story's kind of telling the modern version of classic mythology and archetypes. So the characters themselves are these archetypes, and so you have this fatherly Hagrid. You have these people that are literally like snakes because they're just so conniving in the way they handle things. And then you have the Dumbledore as the wise mentor. And then, of course, Harry Potter as, you know, the unknown hero. He thinks he's just off the unwanted, adopted nephew, but it turns out that he's really kind of the chosen one that can save the day and that he's the one that survived Voldemort. And all this is kind of classic, archetypical mythology type storytelling that humanity has been telling for generations. And this is a modern version of it that it's so well realized that it feels like this world that we love to explore and go into.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I just want to live in this world I feel like I live in this world whenever I watch these films. But I do have some negatives with it, if you are so inclined for us to go into the negatives right now, Sean. For me, the key word in everything we talked about, even in the positives, even in the world building and all the characters and everything being so detailed, is explained. In this film, there is a lot of setup. In this film, there is a lot of exposition. And it's absolutely necessary. This is a first film in a mega franchise of films that were very well laid out. But the film on the second act seems to kind of being enjoying itself on the coasters, looking around, seeing everything that's so pretty, which we are enjoying. It doesn't get really going after we get to Hogwarts, I would say, until the troll scene.
And just in general, the movie is intriguing when it's about discovering this world, the actual story about the Sorcerer Philosopher's Stone seems like an afterthought to me. like you're going through the movie and you have these little adventures. Like, you care about the world, you care about the characters, you care about learning about Quidditch, and is Harry going to be good at it and things like that. He's going to get the snitch. This kind of mystery is always just kind of like, oh, what? I mean, when the action scene happens, when the chess sequence happens, they're good, cool sequences. The actual story about a guy with a towel wrapped around his head with Voldemort's head on the back of it, it's like, it just feels throwaway to me.
That's true. I think the third act comes back a little bit, but I think you nailed it right there. It's the story in this film, not this world, because we are interested in everything that could possibly happen, but just this thing that they mentioned, the Sorcerer's Stone here and there, and you're like, oh, that's a thing. But you're not really interested in it. You don't feel the weight of it.
Right, and so I've been talking this last couple of weeks with some people about the books themselves and the difference. And well, everyone says the books are better and the movies are great, but the books are better. But and the big thing they talk about is that it just can go into more detail on everything. So you watch the movie and it's a little bit like, what? Why are we talking about with this stone? What are we talking about with this other stuff? And that's because it's this whole kind of expanded thing that's done a lot better in the book. But in the movie, and we're talking about the movie, it just kind of feels like they put some little language out there and it's like, oh yeah, we have to have a third act of this movie. Oh yeah, we have to have some conflict that has to be resolved by the end of it, that has to tie into the point system so we can have like this big victory scene at the end. But outside of that, the story is, I mean, like I said, I've watched this movie so many times, both just sitting there. I've shown it to my kids multiple times in the last few years. And I can tell you all kinds of things about the world, all kinds of things. The story itself, it's just kind of like some exposition that leads to a couple sequences at the end. It's not intriguing to me at all.
It's an afterthought. I think even the filmmakers, the writers, realize that it doesn't really matter. We just want to present this world and we're going to good stories after this one. Because I think it comes back at the end, like the challenges that they face. Going through Fluffy, going through the plant thing, going through the chessboard, going to catch the key that flies. Those challenges are really good because they really hit what this series would be about, is that the kids in this use their wits to win challenges and to overcome obstacles, and they don't necessarily use force, even to the last film.
You know, and then it's about them working together. It's not about, like you said, it's even though it is this kind of mythological Harry's this chosen one type character, it's about the team. And there's all these kinds of ways in which Hermione is so much more important than Harry and things like that, to where, and it's all, you know, Dumbledore's important and Hagrid's important. And that distinguishes it, makes it different.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that distinguishes this film. No character is ever lost. I don't think they ever forget about what characters should be important. Even Neville is a character that is not at all important in this film, but you start seeing the seeds that eventually will make him important in movies following this one.
So since we're talking about negatives on this one, I know for me, every time I watch it, the special effects in a number of sequences, you feel exactly how old this movie is. And they overdid it on the kind of the full CGI characters and stuff when they're falling and stuff off brooms. And then likewise, some of the green screen, it just, you feel like you're looking at something old. And I wonder to some extent, even if that's, they got Chris Columbus, who, of course, he's done a number of classic children's films to his resume. Like Home Alone. Obviously, this guy's a classic at some of this stuff. But Home Alone doesn't prepare you for a big special effects, just building a fantasy world. And I wonder if to some extent it's the things that Chris Columbus is good at, character interactions, working with child actors. You see all that in this movie and he gets full credit for that. But perhaps some of the reason that overstretched on special effects, some weak green screen, also goes back to perhaps some of the areas that aren't his strength.
You do feel that it's rough. You do feel that it's dated, especially the full body sequences, the wide shots on the Quidditch games. You really see the lines around the characters. You notice it on Fluffy. You notice it on so many things. The one thing I think it works is the practical effects, which are immediately contrasting that. The goblins in the bank, the close-up shots of the troll, I do believe are practical.
When you're watching a movie and you go in, they go to the bank and you see all these kind of creatures, and of course Warwick Davis is in there, and those look so good. They look like creatures that are out there. And then in another sequence, you see this CGI thing. Or you see a person and you're like, that looks like a cutscene from a video game from 2003. And when you see it and you just go, even the physics of it aren't quite right yet because they hadn't quite gotten how to have people in free fall and look the way humans look when they're falling. You notice it. It pulls you out.
Yeah, it's very, very noticeable. It's one of the worst things about rewatching this film 19 years later, 17 years later, something like that. I do think this film starts and ends very strongly. It just welcomes you into this world, opens you the doors, and allows you to get in and soak in the fantasy of everything that's in it. I do think the characters are wonderful. I do think the world is wonderful, and you want to see more.
Oh, the score! The score from forgot about that one. Yes, and for me, he's the best of all time, and there's not a close second. There's some people that might get there. Hans Zimmer might be on the rise, but for me, John Williams has done so many of these level of scores, like that everyone instantly recognizes that little Harry Potter theme, and 10 billion people on the earth, actually probably not 10 billion, a billion people on the earth have it as the ringtone on their phone because it's so instantly recognizable.
Theme from John Williams is just phenomenal. I think that is one of those that he plays in every single concert, and even tribute concerts to John Williams compositions always play that theme because they know how important it is. Alright, so it's time to rate this. The first Harry Potter doesn't quite hit the mark 100%. It's still finding its feet, which is normal, but I think the fantasy in it is so fully encompassing, you just want to get into this world more. I don't think this is a great film, but I am going to give Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or Sorcerer's Stone, however you want to call it, a B-. How about you, Sean?
I'd probably go with a B, just a little bit above where you're at, because the world building's so good. The story's not so good. Special effects dated a little bit. Some child acting, not the best. But the world we're given, the cast of characters with the actors playing them, all tied together by that amazing John Williams score, I'd go with a B. It's good. It's not great, and it certainly makes you go, oh, I can't wait to see a good story in this world.
You know what? I'm going to up my own. I'm going to give this movie a B. I'm going to take the minus out. It deserves it. It's so enchanting. My beautiful geekies, thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Sean, for being here. It is a true honor, man. I'm flabbergasted, truly.
No problem, man. Thanks for inviting me. And it's kind of fun with these retro reviews to actually talk with someone about them and have that back and forth where we can talk about spoilers and all those little details and remember all those things that we forgot about them. And so I was kind of like excited to actually get to have that back and forth on it.
I also love that we get to talk about our experiences with these films. When do we first watch it? How did we come into it? I hope to talk to you about any other film one day, any other retro review or recent review. No matter what, I just hope to talk to you, my friend. Thank you so much once again, and thank you guys for watching. Go check out Sean's if you haven't already. Of course you have. You love him, you know him, and I'll be back in the near future with another Chandler, but this time first name, Chandler Langley. I'll review Chamber of Secrets with him. And again, thank you, Sean. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll leave all of Sean's links in the description below, as well as mine. Thank you so much, and so until the next review, you stay beautiful, you stay geeky, and if you haven't done so yet, click the subscribe button, click the bell, so we can be geeky united!